That clip's AI, Judge. Name the fine. 10, 50, a million? I'll wire it now, and we all forget this ever happened.
I have learned a hard lesson in my 25 years on the bench. Money buys yachts, skyscrapers, and even silence. But there is one thing money cannot buy in my courtroom: dignity. And let me tell you, I have never seen a man fall as hard as the one standing before me on the morning of November 14th. You think owning a billion-dollar corporation puts you above the law? Stick with me, because what happened next went viral for a reason. If you believe real justice still exists, and that the ultra-rich should pay the price just like the rest of us, hit that subscribe button right now. You are going to want to see this. The file hit my desk 4 days ago, case number 492C. On paper, it looked simple: a zoning violation and destruction of private property. But don't let the legal terms fool you. This wasn't a dispute over a fence line. This was calculated destruction. The defendant was Alistair Sterling. You have probably seen his face on the financial news. CEO of Sterling Global, 38 years old, net worth estimated at $14 billion. He is the kind of man who thinks the world is his personal playground. He drove a silver Bugatti Chiron to the courthouse. I know, because he parked it right on the courthouse lawn, directly under a no parking sign. His vanity plate read King. He didn't even try to hide his arrogance. The victim was Arthur Pendleton, 84 years old, a World War II veteran. He lived in a small oak house that had stood for over 60 years on the edge of Sterling's massive estate. The problem? Sterling wanted to expand his private golf course. He wanted the lake view that Arthur's house was blocking. Sterling didn't negotiate. He didn't offer to buy. Instead, he sent bulldozers to crush the fence, destroy the old man's vegetable garden, and crack the foundation of the main house, claiming it was a construction accident. I read the file twice. Arthur had sent 3 handwritten letters to Sterling's office, 3 times, each one written with the shaking hand of an old soldier, each one thrown in the trash. He called the local police, but Sterling's lawyers blocked everything with fake injunctions. Finally, when a wall in Arthur's bedroom collapsed while he was sleeping, it reached my desk. The morning of the hearing, I arrived at 7:30. I put on my robe, drank my black coffee, and stared at the crime scene photos. The cruelty made my blood boil. This wasn't negligence. This was a message. I am rich, I am powerful, and you are nothing. Alistair Sterling walked into my courtroom at 9:05, 5 minutes late. He wore a custom Armani suit, charcoal gray, probably worth $15,000. On his wrist was a Richard Mille watch, the kind you trade for a mansion. Behind him trailed an army of lawyers, led by Marcus Thorne, the so-called Wall Street shark who hadn't lost a case in a decade. Arthur sat in the front row on the right. He wore his old military uniform, frayed at the shoulders but pressed crisp. He sat alone, gripping his wooden cane, eyes tired but steady. No lawyer, no assistants, just the truth. I banged the gavel to call the court to order. I looked straight at Alistair Sterling. He didn't look at me. He was busy checking texts on a gold-plated phone. He didn't even stand when I called his name. Mr. Sterling, I said, my voice cutting through the silence like ice. Do you know where you are? That is when he finally looked up. He slowly slid the phone into his breast pocket, smirked with absolute condescension, and then he did something that made the whole room freeze. He looked at me, and he winked. A conspiratorial wink, as if to say, "Come on, Judge. We know this is just a show. Let's wrap it up so I can make my lunch reservation." His lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client is a very busy man running the economy." I held up my hand to silence the lawyer. My eyes stayed locked on Sterling. That wink was the last mistake he would ever make as a free man. "Mr. Sterling," I asked, my voice dangerously low, "did you just wink at me?" The courtroom went silent. You could hear a pin drop. His lawyer, Mr. Thorne, actually paled. He knew right then that his client had just crossed a line you do not cross. Sterling didn't back down. He leaned forward, elbows on the defense table, invading the space of the court. "Your Honor, let's cut the theatrics. I have a board meeting at 11. What is the fine? 50,000? 100? Just name the number so my assistant can cut the check and we can all go home." He pulled out a checkbook, a leather-bound checkbook. He actually opened it and hovered a gold pen over the paper, looking at me with pure expectancy. I looked at Arthur. The old man was shaking, not from fear, but from rage. He gripped his cane so hard his knuckles were white. He had fought Nazis in 1944, stormed beaches under machine gun fire, and now he was fighting a man who thought he could buy his dignity for pocket change. "Put the checkbook away," I said. Sterling laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Come on, Judge. Everyone has a price. Even you. Let's not pretend this is about a broken fence. It is about money. It is always about money. Counselor," I said to his lawyer, my voice like steel, "if your client speaks one more time out of turn, I will hold him in contempt." Thorne grabbed Sterling's arm and whispered frantically. Sterling rolled his eyes and slumped back, looking bored, checking his manicure. "This is not about a fence," I continued. "This is about the structural integrity of a home that has stood since 1955. I have the engineer's report here." I held up the document. "The foundation is cracked in 3 places. The roof of the master bedroom where Mr. Pendleton sleeps is compromisingly unstable. One heavy storm, and that roof comes down on top of him." "It was an accident," Sterling muttered, ignoring his lawyer. "My contractors made a mistake. The soil was loose." "A mistake?" I asked. "Is that what you call it?" I reached under my bench. "Then explain this." I pulled out a tablet. My clerk connected it to the large monitors on the courtroom walls. "You see, Mr. Sterling, you are a man of the modern age. You live your life online, and you assume that because I am a judge in a small district, I do not know how to use the internet." I pressed play. The video on the screen was shaky. It was an Instagram Live, recorded 2 weeks ago. The angle showed Sterling holding the camera selfie style, a glass of champagne in his hand. He was wearing sunglasses. In the background, a massive yellow bulldozer was revving its engine right next to Arthur's property line. "Watch this, guys," Sterling's voice boomed from the courtroom speakers, echoing off the walls. "Old man wouldn't sell, said he wanted to die in that house. Well, I'm about to give him a little push. Renovation time." He laughed in the video, a cruel, high-pitched laugh. Then he turned the camera to face the bulldozer as it rammed into the side of Arthur's garden wall, sending bricks flying into the bedroom window. The glass shattered. You could hear the crash. "Oops," Sterling said in the video, turning back to face the camera and winking. The same wink he just gave me. "Looks like my foot slipped. View secured. Number billionaire mindset." The video ended. The screen went black. The silence in the courtroom was heavy, heavy and suffocating. Sterling wasn't bored anymore. He was staring at the screen, his mouth slightly open. His lawyer had his face in his hands, shaking his head. "You live-streamed a felony," I said. "You documented your own malice. You called it renovation time, while you destroyed the home of a man who earned a Purple Heart, defending your right to be a billionaire. That was CGI," Sterling stammered, his face turning a blotchy red. "Deep fake. It's not real. AI generated. We verified the metadata," I said. "Uploaded from your personal device. Location tagged to your estate. Time stamped to the exact moment Mr. Pendleton called 911. I looked at him. "You offered to write a check. You wanted to know the price. Well, Mr. Sterling, we are about to find out exactly what the price of arrogance is. And if you think that video was the worst part, wait until you hear what he tried to do next." It wasn't just a check he offered this time. You think a video confession is the end. For men like Alistair Sterling, evidence is just an inconvenience. It is just a leverage point in a negotiation. And that is exactly what he tried to do next. Sterling adjusted his silk tie. He didn't look scared. He looked annoyed, like a customer dealing with a slow waiter. He stood up, completely ignoring his lawyer's frantic hand tugging at his jacket. "Fine," Sterling said, his voice echoing off the mahogany walls. "You caught me on a bad day. I had a little too much champagne. I made a joke. So what? It is property damage. It is a civil matter. I told you. I will write the check." He turned away from me. He turned his back on the bench. "In my court." He looked directly at Arthur Pendleton. "Look, old man," Sterling said, pulling out that gold pen again. "I will give you $5 million right now. Cash, wire transfer, whatever you want. That is 10 times what that termite-infested shack is worth. Take the money, move to Florida, and let me build my view. Deal? The audacity, the absolute unmitigated gall. He was trying to buy a verdict in open court. Arthur didn't even blink. He gripped his cane with both hands, his knuckles white, but his voice was steady. My wife, Eleanor, died in that bedroom you smashed, Arthur said softly. We planted that garden together in 1968 when I came back from the war. You didn't destroy property, Mr. Sterling. You destroyed my life. Sterling rolled his eyes. He actually rolled his eyes. Oh, spare me the sob story. Sentimentality is for poor people. I am offering you a winning lottery ticket. Don't be stupid. Mr. Sterling, I shouted. My gavel hit the sound block so hard it cracked the wood. Sit down. Now. He turned back to me, looking bored. Or what, Judge? You going to fine me? I make more in a minute than you make in a year. You can't touch me. I know the governor. I had dinner with the senator last night. I built this city's economy. Who is this guy? A retired nobody blocking progress. Progress? I asked. You call destroying a veteran's home progress? I call it necessary, he sneered. I am building a legacy, a resort that will employ thousands. He is holding on to dust. I am the future. He is the past. His lawyer, Marcus Thorne, finally stood up. He looked pale. He knew exactly where this was going. Your Honor, please. My client is under extreme stress. We request a recess to... Denied, I said. Your client is not under stress, Mr. Thorne. He is under the delusion that he is God. I leaned forward. Mr. Sterling, you just admitted to the act. You admitted the video is real after claiming it was a deepfake 2 minutes ago. Do you know what that is called? It is called leverage. Sterling smirked. No, I said. It is called perjury. Lying to the court. But that isn't even your biggest problem. I picked up a file from the corner of my desk. A red file. It wasn't there when the trial started. My bailiff had placed it there during the video playback. You see, while you were busy live streaming your crime, you missed something. You missed what was inside that wall you destroyed. Do you know what was in the foundation of Mr. Pendleton's home? Sterling laughed. Termites? Rot? Asbestos? No, I said. Federal markers. Sterling stopped laughing, his eyebrows knitted together. What? Mr. Pendleton's home is a registered historical landmark, I said, opening the red file. Designated 4 years ago because of its unique post-war architecture. But more importantly, the land it sits on. It doesn't belong to the city zoning board. I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. The land is under a protective easement from the Department of the Interior. You didn't just damage private property, Mr. Sterling. You destroyed federal land. And you know who handles federal crimes? It isn't the local zoning board. Sterling looked at his lawyer. Thorne was furiously typing on his phone, sweat beading on his forehead. That's a technicality, Sterling stammered. My team checked the surveys. Your team bribed the surveyor, I said. We have the emails, but that is for the indictment later. Right now, I want to introduce you to someone. I pointed to the back of the courtroom. Bailiff, open the doors. And if you think Sterling was arrogant before, wait until you see who walked through those doors. Because money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy your way out of this. The double doors at the back of the courtroom swung open with a heavy thud. The sound echoed in the silence. 3 figures walked in. They weren't local police. They weren't zoning inspectors. They wore navy blue windbreakers with 3 yellow letters emblazoned on the back. FBI. Leading them was Special Agent Miller. I have known Miller for 10 years. He doesn't deal with parking tickets. He doesn't deal with zoning disputes. He deals with high-level public corruption. Sterling whipped his head around. For the first time, his face lost that bored, superior look. It was replaced by confusion. Then, quickly, by fear. Who are these people? Sterling demanded, his voice cracking slightly. He turned back to me, trying to mask his panic with anger. Judge, I told you, I have a lunch meeting. If this is another stunt to scare me into paying more. This isn't a stunt, Alistair, I said calmly. It is an indictment. Agent Miller walked past the bar, right up to the defense table. He didn't even look at Sterling. He looked straight at me. Your Honor, Miller said. Thank you for the call. We have been tracking the wire transfers from Sterling Global for 8 months. We suspected he was bribing federal surveyors to reclassify protected land, but we needed the final piece of the puzzle. And did you get it? I asked. We did, Miller said, holding up a small black flash drive. When Mr. Sterling live-streamed his crime, he was too arrogant to check his surroundings. He accidentally captured something else in the video, the blueprints on the table next to his champagne glass. We ran a digital enhancement. The stamps from the surveyor's office were visible, dated 2 weeks before the official survey was supposedly conducted. Sterling went pale, ghost white. That proves nothing, he shouted, saliva flying from his mouth. My lawyer handled the paperwork. Thorne, tell them it was a clerical error. He turned to Marcus Thorne, the shark of Wall Street, the man who never lost. But the shark was trembling. Thorne was backing away from the defense table, actually physically stepping away from his client. I advised against the demolition, Your Honor, Thorne stammered, wiping sweat from his upper lip. My client acted against legal counsel. I have the memos. I told him not to touch that land. Sterling's eyes went wide. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow. You traitor! I pay you $3,000 an hour. You are supposed to fix this. You paid him to cover your tracks, I corrected. But you were too sloppy. You thought you were untouchable, so you didn't even bother to hide the bribe. You live-streamed the evidence of your own premeditated federal crime. Sterling grabbed his gold-plated phone from the table. His hands were shaking so hard he almost dropped it. I am calling the governor, he hissed, his eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. I am calling the White House. You people have no idea who you are messing with. I will have your badges. I will have this courthouse turned into a parking lot. Bailiff, I ordered, my voice booming. Seize that device. That is evidence in an ongoing federal investigation. Don't touch me, Sterling screamed, pulling the phone away as the bailiff approached. This is private property. This is a $50,000 prototype. My bailiff, a man who had seen everything in 30 years of service, didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and snatched the phone from Sterling's grip like he was taking a toy from a toddler. Sterling lunged. He actually lunged at a court officer. Sit down, Agent Miller barked, his hand moving instantly to his belt. Sterling froze. He looked at the FBI agents. He looked at his lawyer, who was now staring at the floor. He looked at Arthur, the old man he had called a nobody. Arthur was smiling. Just a small, sad, satisfied smile. Mr. Sterling, I said, leaning forward over the bench. You have spent your entire life thinking money is a shield. You think it protects you from consequences. You think it makes you better than Mr. Pendleton. Let me tell you something. Mr. Pendleton stormed the beaches of Normandy with a rifle and a prayer. He built that house with his own 2 hands when he came back. He raised a family. He served his community. What have you built? Besides a reputation for cruelty. Sterling straightened his jacket. He tried to regain his composure. He tried to find that arrogance again, but it was crumbling. I employ 50,000 people, he spat. I am a pillar of this economy. You arrest me, and the stock market crashes. Do you want that on your conscience, Judge? The market will survive, I said, but your freedom, that is crashing right now. I looked at Agent Miller. He is all yours. And if you think a billionaire goes down quietly, you are wrong. What he screamed next. I will never forget it. The sound of handcuffs clicking is unmistakable. It is a sharp, metallic snap that signals the end of freedom. In my courtroom, I have heard it thousands of times. But when Agent Miller snapped those cuffs onto Alistair Sterling's wrists, it sounded like a thunderclap. Sterling didn't go quietly. He didn't bow his head. He exploded. Get your hands off me, he screamed, twisting his body, trying to shake off 2 federal agents. Do you know who I am? I am Sterling Global. I own the governor. I own the senators. I will have your badges shredded. I will sue this entire department into the Stone Age. He was foaming at the mouth. Literally, spittle flew onto his $15,000 suit. The veins in his neck bulged so hard I thought they might burst. Mr. Thorne, Sterling yelled, turning to his lawyer. Do something. Fix this. File an injunction. Call the president, do your job. Marcus Thorne, the shark, the man who destroyed opponents for a living, took one look at his client in handcuffs. He took one look at the FBI agents. And then he did something that made the whole gallery gasp. He picked up his briefcase. He stood up, and he walked away. I am withdrawing as counsel, Your Honor, Thorne said, his voice shaky but clear. I cannot represent a client who commits perjury and threatens federal agents in open court. Mr. Sterling, you are on your own. You coward, Sterling shrieked as Thorne walked out the door without looking back. I made you. I will destroy you. That is enough, I roared. Agent Miller, hold him right there. Miller paused, holding Sterling by the arm. Sterling was panting, his face red, his hair disheveled. He looked less like a king and more like a lunatic. Before you take him into federal custody, I said, my voice calm but heavy, we have the matter of the local charges, the destruction of Mr. Pendleton's home, the zoning violations, the contempt of court. Sterling laughed, a manic, desperate laugh. Oh, go ahead, Judge, fine me. Add it to the tab. What is it? $1,000? $10,000? I lose that much in my couch cushions. You are wasting my time. I am not fining you, Mr. Sterling, I said. I opened the sentencing guidelines on my desk. I picked up my pen. You see, in this state, malicious destruction of property over $5,000 is a felony. But when that property is occupied by an elderly resident, it carries a special enhancement. It is called endangerment of a vulnerable adult. Sterling stopped laughing, and I continued, when you combine that with your attempt to bribe a victim in open court, which is witness tampering and your little stunt with the checkbook, I looked him dead in the eye. I am revoking your bail. Revoking? Sterling blinked. I can post bail. I have billions. No bail, I said. Remand. You are going to the county lockup until your trial. And let me tell you about our county lockup. There are no private suites. There is no room service. There is no champagne. You will be in a 6x8 cell with a steel toilet and a roommate who probably doesn't care about your stock portfolio. You can't do that, Sterling shouted. I am a flight risk. I have a private jet. Exactly, I said. Which is why you are staying right here. I demand a phone call, he yelled. I want my other lawyers. I want the media. You will get your phone call, I said, from the booking desk. Like everyone else, I turned to Arthur. The old man was watching all of this with wide eyes. He looked at the man who had terrorized him for months, now in chains, screaming like a child. Mr. Pendleton, I said gently, I am ruling in your favor on all civil counts. I am awarding you maximum damages. But money doesn't fix a home, and it doesn't fix the fear this man caused you. I looked back at Sterling, which brings me to the second part of my sentence, because jail time is just the beginning. I have a special condition for your release, whenever that happens. And if you think prison scared him, wait until you hear the creative punishment I had in store. It was something money absolutely could not fix. Special condition? Sterling looked around wildly, as if expecting a hidden camera crew to jump out and tell him this was a prank. What special condition? I told you, I can pay for a new house. I can buy him a mansion. Mr. Pendleton doesn't want a mansion, I said. He wants his home, the home he built with his own two hands in 1955. And since you seem to think destruction is a game, we are going to play a new game. It is called restoration. I leaned over the bench, locking eyes with him. In addition to your federal sentence, whatever that may be, I am ordering 500 hours of community service. But you will not be picking up trash on the highway. You will not be filing papers in a library. Then what? Sterling demanded, sweat dripping down his nose. You are going to report to Mr. Pendleton's property, I said, and you are going to rebuild that garden wall, brick by hand. Sterling's jaw dropped. You want me to do manual labor? I am a CEO. My hands are insured for $5 million. I don't touch mortar. I don't lift rocks. You do now, I said, and you will do it under the supervision of a court-appointed contractor. No assistants, no hired help, just you, a trowel, and a pile of bricks. You will clear the debris you caused. You will mix the cement. and you will not stop until that wall looks exactly like it did in 1955. This is slavery, Sterling screamed. This is cruel and unusual punishment. My lawyers will have your job. It is justice, I said. You used a bulldozer to destroy a veteran's life because it was easy. Now you are going to learn how hard it is to build something real. I looked at Agent Miller. Get him out of my sight. Sterling tried to resist. He really did. He planted his feet, thrashing against the agents. You will regret this, he howled as they dragged him toward the side door. I am Alistair Sterling. I am the economy. I am God. You are inmate number 49201, Agent Miller said calmly, shoving him through the door. The heavy steel door slammed shut, cutting off his screams. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't tense anymore. It was peaceful, the kind of silence that comes after a storm passes. I looked at Arthur. He was sitting there, tears streaming down his weathered face. He wasn't smiling. He was just weeping quietly. He gripped his cane, his knuckles finally relaxing. Thank you, Your Honor, he whispered. His voice cracked. Thank you for seeing me. Mr. Pendleton, I said softly, you fought for this country. You earned that home. You earned your peace. I am sorry it took a bulldozer and a federal indictment for someone to finally listen. Arthur nodded, wiped his eyes with a handkerchief, and stood up slowly. He walked out of the courtroom with his head held high. A true soldier. You want to know what happened next? Stay with me, because this is the part everyone talks about. If you are part of this community, if you believe in accountability, hit that subscribe button now. We are building something special here. People who believe powerful people should face real consequences. The story went viral within hours. Someone in the gallery had live streamed the arrest. Ironic, isn't it? The video hit Twitter at 10:15 a.m. By lunch, it had 10 million views. Number Billionaire in Cuffs was trending worldwide. But the real story wasn't the arrest. It was what happened at the county jail that night. Because Alistair Sterling didn't handle lockup well. In fact, he lasted exactly 4 hours before he tried to buy his way out again. And let me tell you, the guards weren't selling. You think a man worth $14 billion knows how to make a bed? He doesn't. He definitely doesn't know how to sleep on a thin mattress next to an open toilet. According to the jail logs, inmate 49201 spent his first night screaming. He demanded to speak to the warden. He demanded bottled water. At 3 a.m., he offered a corrections officer $50,000 just to let him use a cell phone for 5 minutes. The officer, a man named Davis, who works double shifts to pay his mortgage, looked at him and said, "Sir, your money is no good here. But if you want, I can get you an extra blanket. It gets cold." Sterling threw his shoe at the bars. He didn't get the blanket. By the next morning, the world outside had changed. The sharks Sterling swam with on Wall Street, they smelled blood. Sterling Global stock plummeted 40% overnight. The board of directors held an emergency meeting at 8 a.m. Via Zoom, they voted unanimously to remove Alistair Sterling as CEO, effective immediately. They cited gross misconduct and reputational damage. They didn't even tell him to his face. They issued a press release. He found out from a TV in the common room while eating cold oatmeal. The federal case moved fast. With the live stream evidence and the bribe attempt on record, his new lawyers, public defenders, because his assets were frozen, advised him to take a deal. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of bribery, destruction of federal property, and witness tampering. He was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. He lost his voting rights. He lost his company. He lost his reputation. But remember the special condition, the one I ordered? That had to happen before he reported to federal prison. On March 12th, a black van pulled up to Arthur Pendleton's property. But this time, Alistair Sterling didn't step out in an Armani suit. He wore an orange safety vest over a gray jumpsuit. He wore work boots that looked too big for him. He looked smaller. Without the entourage, without the gold watch, without the arrogance, he was just a 38-year-old man who had never done a day of physical labor in his life. I was there. I drove by to ensure the terms of my sentence were being followed. Sterling stood in front of the pile of rubble, the bricks he had bulldozed 2 weeks earlier. The court-appointed contractor, a no-nonsense guy named Mike, handed him a pair of gloves and a trowel. "Mix the mortar," Mike said. And don't make it too wet, or the wall falls down. Sterling stared at the tools like they were alien artifacts. He looked at the pile of bricks. Then he looked up at the house. Arthur was sitting on his porch. He was in his rocking chair, drinking tea. He didn't say a word. He just watched. Sterling picked up the first brick. His hands were shaking. He dropped it. It cracked. That comes out of your canteen fund, Mike said. Pick it up. For the first hour, Sterling complained. He whined about his back. He whined about the sun. He whined about the dust ruining his skin. But nobody was listening. The paparazzi were kept back by the police line. His lawyers were gone. It was just him and the mess he made. By the third hour, he stopped complaining. He was sweating, real sweat. His hands were blistering. He struggled to lift the heavy stones. He tried to take a shortcut, stacking bricks without enough mortar. Mike kicked it over. Do it again, Mike said. Do it right. Sterling fell to his knees. He looked at the pile of rubble, and for the first time since I met him, he cried. Not the angry, entitled screaming he did in court. This was defeat. Total, absolute defeat. He looked up at Arthur on the porch. He looked at me standing by my car. I can't, Sterling whispered. I don't know how. Arthur stopped rocking. He put down his tea. He stood up, grabbed his cane, and walked slowly down the porch steps toward the man who had tried to destroy him. Sterling flinched. He thought the old soldier was coming to gloat. He thought he was coming to yell. But Arthur didn't yell. He walked right up to the kneeling billionaire, looked at the messy pile of mortar, and did something that silenced everyone watching. This is the moment that proved who the real man was. Arthur Pendleton didn't yell. He didn't mock the man who had ruined his life. He simply leaned down, his joints cracking audibly, and picked up the trowel Sterling had dropped in the dirt. He scraped the messy, wet mortar off the brick. He did it with the precision of a surgeon. You are using too much water, Arthur said quietly. His voice was raspy but kind. It is like life, son. Too much water, it gets weak. Too much sand, it crumbles. You need balance. And you need patience. Sterling looked up at him. He blinked, sweat stinging his eyes. For the first time, he didn't see an obstacle. He didn't see a nobody blocking his view. He saw a man who knew something he didn't. He saw a man who could build, while he only knew how to destroy. Show me, Sterling whispered. It was the first honest thing he had said in months. And there, in the shadow of the house he tried to crush, the billionaire CEO took a lesson from the veteran. Arthur showed him how to flick the wrist to spread the cement. He showed him how to tap the brick to set it level. They didn't become friends. This isn't a fairy tale. But for the next 6 months, every Saturday, Alistair Sterling showed up. He worked in silence. He blistered. He bled. He sweated. And slowly, brick by brick, the wall went back up. By the time he reported to federal prison in June, the wall was finished. It wasn't perfect. You could tell where the professional mason worked and where Sterling worked, but it was strong. It was real. On his last day, before the marshals took him away to serve his 5-year sentence, Sterling stood by his work. He looked at the garden he had trampled, now replanted with Arthur's help. He walked up to Arthur on the porch. He didn't offer money. He didn't offer a settlement. He took off his work gloves and extended a hand that was now rough, calloused, and dirty. I am sorry, Sterling said. And this time, he didn't wink. He didn't smirk. He looked Arthur in the eye. I didn't know what it meant to build a home. Now I do. Arthur shook his hand. Keep your head down inside, Arthur said. Do your time. Come out a builder, not a breaker. Alistair Sterling is currently inmate number 49201 at a federal correctional facility. He works in the prison library. He has no access to trading terminals. He has no assistance. But I received a letter from him last week. It was handwritten. The penmanship was terrible, but the message was clear. Judge, he wrote, thank you. You didn't just sentence me. You saved me from myself. I lost billions, but I found my hands. I have been on this bench for 25 years. I have seen the worst of humanity and the best. I have seen power used as a weapon and truth used as a shield. But the cases that stay with me are the ones like this, the ones that remind us that the law isn't just about punishment. It is about correction. It is about restoring what was broken, whether it is a garden wall or a man's soul. That morning, Alistair Sterling winked at me because he thought the game was rigged in his favor. He thought wealth made him a king. 60 seconds later, he learned the most valuable lesson of his life. In the eyes of true justice, a billionaire is no taller than a bricklayer. Arthur still lives in that house. His garden is blooming again. And every time he looks at that wall, he doesn't see a scar. He sees a victory for dignity, a victory for the little guy. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Stories like this matter because they remind us that no one is too big to fall and no one is too small to stand tall. If you believe in justice real, unfiltered justice, hit that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who needs to see the good guys win for once. I am Judge Boyd, and court is adjourned.